recent Twitter Q&A, Samuel Jackson said that he believes Mace Windu is alive.
The only person left to kill that would mean anything in episode 3 would be me. I was trying to figure out, really? Can't you just injure me and whatever? But in my mind, I'm not dead. Jedis can fall incredibly high distances and not die.
You hope Mace Windu's still alive.
Of course he is.
That's a long drop.
Jedis can fall from amazing distances, and there's a long history of one-armed, one-handed Jedis.
That's
true.
So
have you had
why
any
not?
talks with anyone about that?
No, only George.
Well, what did he have to say? Even
George
with
is
nothing to do.
"Hey, I'm okay with that. Yeah, you can be alive."
So he's laying low like Obi-Wan. He's just laying low while the dark
Exactly.
side's taking over.
Yeah.
Samuel Jackson has also stated dozens of times that he very much wants to be in the new Star Wars movies.
Yeah, I'd like to be in the new Star Wars. I'd love to be a part of it. I want to be in Star Wars now too. When JJ Star Wars. I mean, come on.
And even John Boyega has stated that he believes in some conspiracy theories involving Finn, and that there's a lot more to the characters in The Force Awakens than meets the eye.
There's no way that our stories are so simple. I've still got some conspiracy theories. I was at a party and someone behind me just tapped me on the shoulder and was just like, "Yo, Black Jedi!" I turned around, it was Samuel Jackson. He's like, "You my son!"
So first of all, we need to establish that Mace Windu didn't actually die in Revenge of the Sith and is still alive in the new trilogy. So let's break down the Mace Windu versus Palpatine fight scene. Let's start with Anakin cutting off Mace Windu's arm. Well, everyone knows that getting your arm cut off in Star Wars has never been a lethal injury. Dozens of Jedi have had their arms cut off and lived. Secondly, he's hit with the full power of Palpatine's Force lightning. While this clearly would injure and scar Mace Windu, it almost definitely didn't kill him. For one, Mace Windu makes a grunting sound when he goes flying out of the window. So we know he's still alive after being hit with the lightning. Also, Force lightning has never killed anyone in any previous Star Wars movies. Palpatine hit Luke and Yoda with the Force lightning and didn't kill either of them. Count Dooku hit Anakin with the Force lightning and he didn't die. And even when the full power of Palpatine's Force lightning was deflected back onto himself, the lightning didn't kill him either. And lastly, Mace Windu is shot out of the window and falls from a great height. But as Samuel Jackson has said, Jedi can fall from great heights and be completely fine. In fact, no Jedi has ever died from a fall in any of the Star Wars movies yet. And Jedis have fallen from even higher than Mace did. Even Anakin fell hundreds of feet in the same city of Coruscant and landed on a car completely safe. So of course Mace Windu, a Jedi Master, would be able to land safely. Now you might be thinking, Snoke looks nothing like Mace Windu. He's old, he has ghostly white skin, he's scarred all over his face, etc. But when you think about it, that's exactly how Mace Windu would look when you account for everything that has happened to him. The first being he was hit with the full power of Palpatine's Force lightning. And when the exact same lightning was deflected by Mace Windu onto Palpatine's own face, Palpatine's skin turned from a normal flesh color to a ghostly white. It also severely disfigured, scarred, and burnt Palpatine's face beyond recognition. And that's exactly what it did to Mace Windu as well. It disfigured his face, changed his skin to a pale, ghostly white, burnt and severely scarred Mace Windu, just like it did with Palpatine. Snoke also looks very old and even says that he's been alive to see the Galactic Empire rise and fall.
I watched the Galactic Empire rise and then fall.
So he's been alive since the prequels, which makes sense if he's Mace Windu. Mace Windu was alive in the prequels to see the Empire rise and fall, and would now be an old, fragile man. And as for Mace Windu's lost arm, he clearly would have a lifelong lifelike mechanical arm just like some other Jedis who've lost an arm. And the scar on his head could be from hitting his head during the fall on Coruscant. And it is worth mentioning that they are both bald as well. Before we get into Mace Windu's motives, we need to establish that he isn't as good and innocent as you might think. In fact, Mace Windu uses more of the dark side than probably any other Jedi. You may not have noticed, but Mace Windu uses a badass purple lightsaber. Along with it being cool and all, it also symbolizes Mace Windu's balance of both the dark and the light side of the Force, as blue and red combined make purple. In fact, Mace Windu is one of the only Jedis to use Vaapad, a Force state of mind that allows the user to channel his own inner darkness into a duel. This means that when Mace Windu fights, he uses the dark side of the Force, but he tries to control and balance it so it doesn't completely overtake his emotions. And you can definitely notice this whenever he fights. He cuts off Jango Fett's head and was about to kill Palpatine when even Anakin said it was not the Jedi way to just kill Palpatine without a trial. And Snoke is very much obsessed with the balance of the dark and the light side of the Force as well. Snoke even chose to train Ben Solo specifically because he has both the dark and the light side of the Force within him. Snoke even states this in the official Force Awakens novel.
What you are made of. The dark side. And the light.
And in the trailer for the movie.
The dark side. And the light.
So if Snoke is Mace Windu, he could see himself in Kylo Ren since they both balance both the dark and the light side of the Force. So why exactly would Mace Windu turn to the dark side? Well, as we know, he's already delicately balancing the dark and the light side of the Force, so all it would take is a strong enough push to send him to one side or the other, and being betrayed by Anakin could certainly be the push that was needed. Mace Windu would also have a vendetta against the Skywalkers, as Anakin Skywalker betrayed him, cut off his arm, and allowed Palpatine to scar, disfigure, and almost kill him. So this could be one of the main reasons why he wants to find Luke to kill off the Skywalker bloodline as revenge. He would also want to enact revenge on the Palpatine lineage too, since Emperor Palpatine almost killed him, and if the theory is true that Rey is Emperor Palpatine's granddaughter, he would want to kill her as well, as she is the last of Palpatine's bloodline, which would also explain why he's so interested in finding Rey. There's also an amazing fan theory that suggests Mace Windu thinks he himself was the chosen one and not Anakin. It explains why he tries to stop Anakin from being trained in the first place, why he's always mean to Anakin, and even tries to stop him from gaining the rank of Master on the Jedi Council. Also, the prophecy for the Chosen One even explains that the Chosen One will bring balance to the Force, and Mace Windu learned to balance the Force perfectly with Vaapad. He has a purple lightsaber to symbolize his balance of the Force, and he was about to kill Palpatine, the last remaining Sith. So he could still believe he is the Chosen One and wants to kill the remaining Skywalkers because they challenge his belief that he is the Chosen One and not one of them. Even Han Solo knows he plans on killing Kylo Ren, who is of the Skywalker bloodline as well, when he's finished using Kylo Ren for his powers. Mace Windu, like some other Star Wars characters, has a signature lightsaber move that pretty much only he seems to use. It's a move that makes him unique, a move that he uses in every fight we see him in. That move is a backswing slicing move. He even cuts off Jango Fett's head with it and uses the move multiple times when fighting Emperor Palpatine. Well, there's actually one more Star Wars character we see using that move, Kylo Ren. We see Kylo Ren use the backswing slicing move multiple times in The Force Awakens. In fact, he uses it at least 3 times when fighting Rey, and even more times if you count some of these. So why would Kylo Ren be using Mace Windu's signature move? Well, if Mace Windu is Snoke, then he would have taught Kylo Ren this deadly attack when training him in the dark side. One of the most interesting aspects of this theory points out that Finn may actually be the son of Mace Windu, aka Snoke. But before we can get into why and how, you first need to know that Finn is definitely Force sensitive. First of all, when Snoke says to Kylo Ren, "There has been an awakening, have you felt it?" he's actually referring to the Force awakening in Finn, not Rey. Specifically, the moment when Finn decides to change to the light side while on the battlefield on Jakku. We know this because the scene where Snoke says there has been an awakening was at about 50 minutes into the movie. This is actually way before Rey shows any Force abilities at all, since the first time we see Rey use the Force was in Maz Kanata's castle during her Force vision, but that was almost 20 minutes later into the movie. And the scenes where Rey reads Kylo Ren's mind, does a Jedi mind trick, etc., were all nearing the end of the movie. The only thing that happens before Snoke says there has been an awakening was Finn deciding not to kill for the First Order anymore and changing to the light side when on Jakku, and even Kylo Ren noticed the Force awakening in him when he glared at him. Finn then helped Poe Dameron escape and helped Rey and BB-8 escape. There's also like 10 other reasons why Finn is Force sensitive, but this video is already long enough, so you can watch my Finn Awakens video after this one if you want to hear more on this theory. So since Finn is Force sensitive, his parents are likely to be Force sensitive as well. And if Mace Windu is still alive, and Mace Windu is Snoke, it just makes sense that Finn would be his son. So the theory is that Snoke was disappointed that Finn didn't portray very much potential with the Force as a child. So he basically disowned Finn and searched for a child that was gifted in the Force, like Ben Solo. But he didn't want to completely abandon Finn, as he might end up being of some use later on. So Snoke decided to make him a stormtrooper, that way he can keep an eye on Finn and ensure he stays aligned with the First Order. And who better to keep an eye on Finn than Kylo Ren? This would explain why Finn's first mission is such a high-profile one, going with Kylo Ren to Jakku. And as we learn later on, Finn was a sanitation worker before while on Starkiller Base. So him being on a mission with Kylo Ren is a little suspicious. This also explains why when Finn decides not to fight for the First Order anymore and is standing on the battlefield on Jakku, Kylo Ren suspiciously glares at him before going into his ship. Kylo Ren noticed that the Force awakened in him at that moment. It also explains why later on, when Kylo Ren is told that a stormtrooper helped Poe Dameron escape, Kylo Ren instantly knows that the stormtrooper was Finn.
We're checking the registers now to identify which stormtrooper it was.
The one from the village, FM 2187.
Kylo Ren knows that Finn is Force sensitive and the son of Snoke, so he's very likely to make his own decisions and rebel against orders. Kylo Ren also goes absolutely berserk when he is told that Finn helped Rey and BB-8 escape Jakku, because this just ensures even more that Finn is betraying not only the dark side, but Snoke as well. And all while Kylo Ren is supposed to be watching over him.
We have no confirmation, but we believe FN 2187 may have helped in the escape.
Not to mention, the film seems to really focus on Finn's betrayal, like when the stormtrooper angrily calls him a traitor, then tries to kill him, which makes it seem like there's a little more to his betrayal than meets the eye. And finally, when Kylo Ren and Finn meet at the end of The Force Awakens, Kylo Ren is very angry about Finn's betrayal and seems to take it extra personally. You can really hear it in his voice when he screams, "Traitor!" Traitor! But when Kylo Ren then fights Finn, he chooses to toy with him instead of just killing him. And when Kylo Ren is finally hit by Finn, he chooses to punch Finn and cut his back instead of easily killing him. Kylo Ren killed his own father, cut the old man at the start of The Force Awakens in half, and has a table of the ashes of the people he's killed. Yet he decides to keep Finn alive, because Finn is still very important to Snoke and the dark side. So there you have it. It's a pretty crazy theory, but even if it doesn't come true, you have to admit it's an interesting piece of fan fiction at the very least. If you have any ideas that can add to this theory, please comment them down below. I'm also going to comment down below some ideas on how Captain Phasma could play into all this. Also, if you haven't already seen it, I made another video going into detail on how Finn is definitely Force sensitive, so feel free to watch that video after this one. And if you want to see even more fan theories, I upload videos like these all the time, so click subscribe so you get notified when I upload a new video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Have a great disturbance in the Force.
Jack.
Yes.
I'll tell you a story from my childhood.
Oh, okay. I'm totally into this now.
So as a kid or even as an adult, who doesn't love potato chips, right? Okay. So I had potato chips. And then, you go to a fast food restaurant, and then I ordered French fries. Okay, that's kind of cool. And then, for turkey dinner, there's mashed potatoes, right? And then in the breakfast brunch, diner, you can get hash browns.
Yes.
Okay. I think I was 11, maybe 10, before I figured out that all of those were the same food.
Right. Well,
a potato.
I mean, it's nothing to think about when you're 11 or 12.
It's just food.
It's just food, and it's delicious.
And only one of them, two of them have the word potato in it.
That's right.
Mashed potatoes and potato chips, but they are completely different from each other.
Oh, without a doubt.
And French fries, no one says potato. And hash browns, they don't say potato.
Right.
So
and my kids grew up on Freedom fries, so they don't even know what French fries
Freedom fries, okay. So it was a revelatory moment for me to realize that one food could be made so different and so interestingly different to have its own place within our culinary offerings. Each one of those could do that, right? Oh, another one I liked were the potato sticks. Do you remember those?
Oh, God, yes.
Man.
And do you remember the potato sticks that, they're the same thing. Never mind. So they were like French fries. They had the big potato sticks, and then they had the tiny little matchsticks potato sticks.
The matchstick, those were the best because there was like a lot of salt in it.
Salt.
Okay,
crispy.
so the point is...
Okay, I am starving. I'll be back. I'll be right back.
So they were all different, yet they were the same.
Right.
And so too was my revelation of early middle school. It was probably sixth grade now, because I was an early geek, but realizing that, okay, you've heard of these things called microwaves. You've heard of radio waves. You've heard of infrared, ultraviolet. You've seen rainbows, visible light. You've heard of X-rays. You've heard of gamma rays. It's all the same thing.
Right.
It is just different ways of preparing your light. Okay? To use my potato analogy.
And so
It
you're
is
basically 11 years old and you're making this discovery for yourself.
after I realized about the potatoes. Yes.
Okay. Because I was 37.
So I said, my gosh, it's all light. It all travels at the speed of light. And this word light, where you're talking about what the human retina can see, that's very limiting for if you want to talk about the universe. Because, so what's our favorite light colors? Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet.
Roy G. Biv.
Okay, continue there and you go the other side of violet, you get ultraviolet. You go beyond violet. That's how it got its name. It's beyond violet, and we abbreviate it UV, but I like fleshing out ultraviolet. Give me all the syllables that it's got. Okay? And this is the...
Sounds far more harmful.
Well, in fact, it is, because in this direction, we are reducing the wavelength of light that's coming to us. And when you reduce the wavelength of light, more energy is packed into one pulse of that light, and so the energy goes up.
Well, okay.
Okay? So the higher the frequency, it's how many crests go by per second, the higher is the energy of that light. So the red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet is all sort of pretty harmless. You get into ultraviolet light, it has enough energy to break apart biological molecules.
Uh-oh.
And this will give you sunburn and skin cancer.
Right.
Okay? So I heard a DJ talk about when he just learned that the temperature on Venus was 900 degrees. He said, well, you better bring sunblock 1,000,000 for that. So he's wrong. He's thinking that you're protecting from the heat.
That you can block that.
Right. No, you're not blocking heat.
Right.
The point of the sunblock is to block just the UV.
Just the UV.
Okay, right? So
you still getting dark and crispy no matter what you want to do.
Yeah, you'll get toasted. You're toasted,
right. No matter what.
No matter what. So then you go beyond the ultraviolet, and that's when you get the X-rays.
Right.
X-rays it is continuous with the ultraviolet, right? We put a line there just because our convenience of words and machines built on it, but ultraviolet smoothly transitions to X-rays.
Interesting.
Okay? And X-rays are bad for you because when you go in the X-ray room, what does the X-ray tech do?
They go to a bomb shelter.
They leave the room. They say, are you okay? Are you comfortable? Yeah, okay. Boom. Door closes.
Exactly.
And they look through a lead glass and then okay. So X-rays can actually penetrate your skin, unlike ultraviolet. And in doing so, it can actually harm your organs. All right. And so you can get organ failure from it. And organ cancers are triggered by this. Now, it's a continuum of a change of wavelength of light. And then you get to beyond X-rays, you get to gamma rays.
Right.
And by the way, gamma rays just keep getting higher and higher energetic, but we don't have more words for it. All right? It's just the last word we've got. But you could have divided that up even more. We just don't. Okay? Right. And so
you would have thought
gamma rays
get omega rays or something like that. Yeah. I wonder what superhero would be made from omega rays.
Well, gamma rays are in the early days before we fully understood what the sources of energy were. There were alpha particles, beta particles, and gamma particles. Alpha, beta, gamma. And the alpha particle is a helium nucleus. The beta particle is an electron, and the gamma ray is a photon. But they all had energies that we could measure, so we're measuring the energies, not knowing what the thing was that caused it at the time. But that all splits out, so we have, like I said, ultraviolet, X-rays, gamma rays. There you have it. All right. Go the other direction, wavelengths are getting longer, the energy is dropping. So you go below the red, you get infrared, below the red. All right. By the way, you can't see infrared. You can't see ultraviolet. If you buy, I want an ultraviolet bulb. We used to call them black light bulbs. I want an ultraviolet bulb, and you turn it on, and you see it. You say, I can see the ultraviolet. No, you're not. You're seeing the violet.
Right.
Okay. There's a little bit of violet spilling out. The actual ultraviolet, you don't see at all. Same with the infrared lamps. You buy an infrared lamp. If that was pure infrared, you turn it on, you wouldn't see a damn thing. Okay?
Right. You're not a predator.
Right, exactly. So a little bit spills into the red part, so you see the red emitted by the infrared lamp. All right? We can detect infrared not by our eyes, but by our skin. You detect infrared as warmth.
Right.
All right? It's a detector. Think of it that way. All right? A warmth detector. So there's the infrared, and then you go beyond infrared, below infrared, what used to just all be called radio waves. And then they said, well, there's a section of the radio waves that have special utility for us for communicating. It's just the shortest of the radio waves, and they call them microwaves.
Sweet.
Short radio waves, microwaves. So that got it labeled right there between infrared and radio waves. And beyond microwaves, we have radio waves. And now we're getting physically realizably sized wavelengths of light. So microwaves are about a centimeter long. We can actually show that. Between a millimeter up through a few centimeters. And then when you get into the meter zone, yards and things, those are radio waves. And once again, like gamma rays, these just continue forever. And we don't have more words for it.
Right. Which is why we have so many different broadcasts. Or are those just frequencies? But the frequency,
the
frequency is the wave.
You can call them, they call them wavelengths,
right?
But it's our habit to call them frequencies,
right?
So each frequency, when you're tuning,
right,
in the old days, you'd have an AM or an FM radio. When you're turning the dial, you are changing the frequency of your detector to receive a signal sent through that zone.
Wow,
there you have it.
That's great.
And in the old days, when you turn old timers, you turn the knob to change the channel on the TV. You're actually changing the frequency detector inside the television. And there's that secondary knob that you could tune it a little sharper. I don't know if you knew that. Okay? That got you honed in on that one frequency. Was it channel 7, channel 8? Right. We just numbered them. We didn't give you the frequency because that's why. When you can just number them, which is what we did in the day. So anyway, all of these move at the speed of light. It is all light. Most of it is invisible to you. In fact, if you put this on a scale, if you drew all of these things and you ask, well, how much of this whole electromagnetic spectrum can we see?
Right.
And we see this tiny slice among all these broad zones in the electromagnetic spectrum. We are practically blind.
Oh, goodness.
And we didn't even know that until William Herschel discovered infrared light.
Right. Look at that. That is,
and I think I said in another explainer how he discovered it. I'll do it real quick now.
Yeah,
you ready?
Yeah, I
do
love
you remember?
This. I love this.
Okay.
Yeah, I do remember. And
okay, Herschel's a big fan of Newton. Newton has a spectrum. He shows sunlight is composed of colors, and you put a sort of slit in the curtains so the beam of light comes through your prism so that it's dark elsewhere except where the prism light goes. And Herschel said, I wonder what the temperatures are of each of these different colors. To even think to ask that.
Yeah.
All right. So he's got a thermometer and he puts it in the blue. And then and by the way, it's an experiment. So you need a control thermometer. So you put the control thermometer somewhere where the colors are not. All right. On the same table, but just put it outside the colors, which is what he did. And he checked the temperature of the blue and the violet and the green and the orange and the red. And he wrote down all of these temperatures. And what he noticed is that the temperature sitting outside of the visible spectrum read the highest temperature of them all.
Right. And now, why didn't he just say, oh, it must be hot in this room? I didn't realize how hot it was in here. Maybe there's something wrong with me. I can't feel heat anymore.
So there it was. And because he didn't put the thermometer somewhere else, he put it next to the other.
Right next to it.
Right next to it, because the same environment
exactly.
is there.
Right.
And he said, oh my gosh, there must be a form of light, quote, unfit for vision.
I love the terminology.
Unfit for vision.
Light that is unfit for vision.
And had that thermometer been on the other side of the violet, it's not clear that ultraviolet would have warmed the thermometer in this way. But he happened to have it on the side where the red was, and he discovered infrared light with that experiment. And so when I look at my microwave oven, and I look at a radio transmitter, or I look at my cell phone, and I look at my lamp on my table, It is one happy family of electromagnetic spectrum coming to us.
That's so cool.
It's dope. And it's called electromagnetic because it's a wave that simultaneously moves between being an electrical wave and a magnetic wave, and it's self-propagating through space. So it's a wave that can move through the vacuum of space without having needed a medium through which to vibrate to send it through, like sound does. Right? So all those movies, Star Wars, they'd all be silent movie because no explosions are in space. But light has no problem moving through space, even though it's a wave, because it's a very different kind of wave. It's a self-propagating electrical and magnetic wave, and that's why we call it the electromagnetic spectrum. There you have it, Chuck.
That's great.
And it all started with my potatoes. Just saying.
And what wavelength are they on? The delicious wave.
The delicious. We keep them warm with infrared. It all comes full circle.
That's so true.
All right. Chuck, that's all the time we got.
All right. That was great.
All right. That's been another explainer from Star Talk. Neil deGrasse Tyson here. Keep looking up.